another episode of the Outer Room Rambling with myself, the Outlaw Adam Neeson, joined as always by Danny Brown. Danny, my friend, how are you?
Adam, I feel like I'm having deja vu. I feel like you've already said that to me today, you know.
Well, so people like to think we're not professional, but on days like this
Yeah,
where we're
we're all
doing double
professional.
records and the previous guest loves a big ganch, we'll not say who it is, but they're a lovely person.
They're all lovely people, and they
They're
all
all,
love Genshin. And
it's
I'm
the thing,
sure
well,
today's guest will also love a Gensh.
it's the thing about Star Wars. If you love Star
Mm.
Wars, you love a big chat about Star Wars.
Yeah, or maybe not even Star Wars. You just in general love Genshin. We've managed to have quite Ganchy people on. Today's guest is going to be the same, I assume. We've already had a Ganch with our guest before we even recording. It was like, we should probably record now.
Yeah. Joining us today from TikTok fame. Do people get famous on TikTok still? Is that still a thing?
Oh, I'd say there's still, or at least all those who got famous on TikTok are now progressing into lots of gone beyond the COVID TikTok fame time. And
Mm,
that's you've got to branch out now as well, you see.
that is true. TikTok famous is sort of like I like the because algorithm. I'll get to our guest in a second. The algorithm fed me our guest's content, and then it's sort of like, do you know when you have your own like wee TV show and then you join back every day to be like, ah, what are they up to today? That's my TikTok. It's just old people falling down and Star Wars stuff.
Old
So,
people falling down.
Danny, I've sent you enough for you to
Because
know.
I know that's true to be fair. Yeah, yeah. I've got what your algorithms like. Mine's just cats and food,
Mm,
and horror movie content, and obviously Star Wars content. But yeah, I feel like we're at the point that like TikTok. We will get to you in a moment. We promise. But
45 minutes later, we will.
yeah, we're still catching a lot of my other stuff. But I feel like the way at the minute we've got all the YouTubers, all those who kind of came up in YouTube are now making movies. We're
Mm,
eventually going to get, and that some of the TikTokers or YouTubey TikTok people are making movies. But
mm.
I feel like eventually we're going to get those that just started on TikTok are going to start making movies and other such. So maybe our guest today will make a Star Wars movie or TV show. Who knows?
Well, joining us today from TikTok is Charlie from Charlie is Learning Star Wars. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
When are you making your movie? That's the.
And what's it going to be about? What
Yeah.
what part of Star Wars are you making it on?
I hadn't factored it into my plans, but do you know what?
Mm,
We'll start small. We'll just start increasing that length of videos, and
mm.
eventually you'll be watching a feature film and not even realize.
True.
Oh, yeah. That
Like
that sounds like the way to go.
we have always teased on the podcast that we would make a Lobot movie.
Nice.
He seems like a character
Imagine we started with a Lobot TikTok and then
mm,
worked up to the Lobot movie.
that
They've always
plays.
said it's going to be a musical.
Is the guy that played Lobot still alive?
I don't think so.
We're gonna have
Need
the
to double
AI.
check that one. We'll
I
have to check
mean,
that.
we lost Tarkin and they still did stuff with Tarkin. There's options out there.
True.
Yeah. I'm sure we could find a good. You know what? I'm bald. We could
Mm.
just There we go. Just a Baldman. It's fine. But yeah, we could have, and obviously Randy Newman's going to do the soundtrack for it.
Of
So
course.
it's already decided. But yeah, I feel like if you start off with your TikTok content, and as you say, Charlie, you're going to sort of drip feed people longer durations so that they don't notice. Because that's it. At
Yeah.
the minute, everybody wants that short form content, but just gradually get them used to the long form content again.
It's funny how it's changed, though, is it? TikTok, YouTube started short and then went long.
Mhm.
And then TikTok was like, no, 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 we're going to go short again. And now TikTok is starting to go a bit longer,
Yeah.
Hmm.
a bit longer. And it amuses me the way of the world that we can't decide what we want.
Yeah.
Well, let's sort of get into it. How did you sort of come about creating your TikTok, and then sort of how does that stem into the world of Star Wars?
It was a mix of things sort of all coming together over the course of about a year. The main thing was that I left a job where I was very, very creative and I went into a more behind the scenes kind of role. And as much as I love it, I was kind of going, but I'm not doing anything creative now. How do I still do something creative and yet enjoy the job? So I was like, right, I need to find something that I can focus on and I can enjoy. And I'd started down a path of getting interested in Star Wars quite gradually, probably over about the year, maybe even 2 years beforehand, as like a gentle, not really realizing. I chatted to Will Schick, who is a fantastic guy over at Atomic Mass Games, and he talked to me about Shatterpoint, which is a miniatures game based on the Clone Wars. And how he described it to me was the first time Star Wars felt accessible and exciting to me. And I sort of got the thing going. And I spoke to him a couple more times and I was like, you're making Star Wars sound interesting. I didn't know this was possible. And then they brought out Star Wars Unlimited, which I covered. I did a lot of work, sort of like reporting on it, went down that rabbit hole. And then my tiny little toddler started liking Star Wars. And I went, all right, I should probably get into this in case this does turn into something proper. And it was just like those little bits of everything, with the background of the fact that my husband has been a lifelong fan, hasn't stopped talking about it ever since I've met him. And I've kind of just gone, yeah, cool. Really glad you like it. Not for me. Turns out is for me. As I started making content and sort of picking out different bits that I was interested in. So I started just using Star Wars Unlimited cards and saying, I don't know who this character is. Kit Fisto was my big one. I was like, I don't know who Kit Fisto is. Let's figure it out. And the more I started diving in, the more I found, the more I enjoyed, the more I liked. So yeah, it's probably only been, I think, not even that. It's been 6 months since I started making content, but I have loved every second of it. And I am very happy now to be in a position where I'm like, I know enough to be allowed to call myself a Star Wars fan.
Yeah, it's definitely something that drew me into your videos was that like being like a lifelong Star Wars fan to see it fresh through somebody else's eyes is definitely, whenever me and my partner went to Galaxy's Edge, like she's not a massive Star Wars fan, but being able to experience like Star Tours, something like I'd been on hundreds of times, but for her to go on it and be like, that's the best ride in this park. This is sort of like it's like someone enjoying something that you love and they're enjoying it on the same level. So you can be like, yeah, it's great, isn't it? Isn't it?
Yeah, no, I've always been a Disney nerd. I've
Mhm.
known Disney inside out and the parks inside out. So Galaxy's Edge, I've been to Galaxy's Edge twice and I've loved it both times, but neither of them as I was into Star Wars, but both times have gone and just it's jaw-dropping. It's Rise of the Resistance and that moment when you see the AT-ATs and you're like, oh my God. And everything that comes in between with that is it's the Coke bottles having Orabesh on them, it's the characters walking through, or the Ronto wrap, or all of like the little bits, seeing the Millennium Falcon actually there in front of you. It's jaw dropping whether you're a fan or not. And then obviously I made the mistake of going with my husband when he built a lightsaber. Even I nearly cried. And I was like, this is not my fandom. Why is this so emotional? And I can't imagine what I'll be like if I ever get to go back again. But it's seeing like I got to enjoy and be excited about that even without being a Star Wars fan. But my husband the entire time was, oh, and did you know that that's this and this is this one and this is this, and I enjoyed that. I enjoy enthusiasm, which I hopefully try and give off as well, but sharing that with him and then hopefully then me sharing that same enthusiasm online when I find stuff is a nice tie-in for everything to bring the joy of Star Wars.
And you say, obviously, with Shatterpoint and Star Wars Unlimited, is your history in like board games and card games?
Yeah. So I was the editor of Tabletop Gaming Magazine for 2 years. I worked with them for 5 and I was editor for 2. So I saw everything from other people's perspectives a lot, and I got to talk to people about why they liked stuff or what they wanted to do. And that industry is the designers behind it and the creators behind it are some of the friendliest people I have ever met in my life. And when I left that industry, I was worried none of them would talk to me anymore. And they all still do, which is just, it's nice when your friends are your friends. Listening to them get excited about different things is very infectious. So whether it's Star Wars Unlimited or Shatterpoint or the various other games that aren't my personal niche, that doesn't mean I can't get excited about them.
Yeah.
And for a while, it felt like secondhand excitement because I was excited because they'd done something that sounded cool. And now with the Star Wars stuff, it gets to be my excitement. I'm excited that the new set's coming out and I'm excited to get to play the games and that sort of thing.
Yeah, this past weekend, me and Danny got together and I was able to sort of introduce him to the Battle of Hoth starter.
How did you find it?
Loved it.
Well, let's just say
I won.
Danny won.
That's why.
But I was able to see and feel playing it with Danny because Danny is a big Magic the Gathering guy that like I could feel his enthusiasm learning all the things. And then whenever I left, like Danny's leaving, I was like, "Did you enjoy that?" And then immediately just sent me a screenshot of him purchasing the Twilight of the
The
Republic
Twilight of
pack.
the Republic
Nice.
starter set because I was just like, I really enjoyed that. And yeah, as Adam said, my enthusiasm for card games I played before, I was able to kind of be like, oh, this is like that and Magic, and this is a wee bit Pokemon, and like it was everything else I'd sort of done. And then I'd played like other Fantasy Flight games like X-Wing and Legion and that sort of thing. So there was like all those kind of elements coming in. So I was just like, oh, but then even the artwork, like I'll show you, we got some packs of cards as well when we were in the town, and you were saying about like you'd open the packs and get a card out, and that would help you go down a rabbit hole about the character. But I got this card, and it's my favorite because of the artwork on it. Yeah, there he is. Look at that little Jar Jar Binks.
Oh, I love him.
I just love the artwork's fantastic on all of them, but that one in particular, I was like, I love this.
Hmm.
I think they're really cool. I think to begin with, the artwork felt almost a little jarring, which I don't know is
Mm,
sacrilegious to say. I think none of us really expected that that was how they would present Star Wars. And then you kind of get used to it and you're like, oh my God, these are beautiful. These are so good. And
yeah.
especially, I think, from Legends of the Force, because I followed the sets even without really knowing a lot of the characters in them. But Legends of the Force was the perfect mix for me. It was the most characters that I knew. The artwork in it, the pets. I'm obsessed. I'm insistent there's going to be a way to make a pet deck, which is just going to be all of the creatures I can possibly put in one deck. So I need a card that lets me have like unlimited porgs, and then I'm good to go because the porg cards are fantastic.
Top tier, top tier. I'm trying to find. I had a little Lothwolf card there, and I was just
Yes,
like, Lothwolf.
they're beautiful.
Yeah. I think I want to do. I think I want to. I was saying to Adam, I want to do a clone deck. I think first because clones would be like one of my favorite things in Star Wars. So I
Yeah.
think I want to do a clone deck. But then I'm also like, but what about them Gungans? You
What about
know?
them Gungans?
Hmm.
Well, the new set, I'm excited because the new set's got pod racing in it. I don't know how big it will be in it, but there's at least 3 cards. And I am very like, how much can I put pod racing into one single deck?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Can we get is there a Ben Cuisinaros card?
I don't think I've seen one yet. There's definitely Anakin and Sebulba,
Hmm.
and Anakin is the pilot, Anakin's pod racer, and Sebulba with his pod racer. But I've not seen Ben Quadranaris yet. But give it
He's gonna be
time,
a
it could
promo card.
happen.
He'll be a special exclusive promo card that's going to end up on eBay for like 200 quid.
He'll be one of the mats. That's how you know they really stand
Oh,
Oh
behind
yeah.
it, is
that's
when he makes
yeah,
it to a game mat.
yeah, yeah.
I was like, I need to stop buying game mats, and then they've made a pod racing one, and now I'm like, oh, maybe I
I
need
was
it.
looking at I was looking at game mat after buying the Twilight Republic starter set. I was like, but maybe I need a game mat to put this on. And I start again. That sent me down the rabbit hole of
Game
the
mat,
game.
game boxes, game binders.
Don't even start me like behind like over here somewhere. It's just loads of Magic the Gathering stuff. And I'm just kind of like, yeah, just swap all that out. Yeah, just go to
Yeah,
like a tabletop store and be like, can I swap?
yeah,
Do
do
you
it.
guys want all this for Star Wars Unlimited stuff? Because I will.
Do it. I sold out of Pokemon to swap for my Star Wars Unlimited.
There we go.
It's a thing.
I know what I'm doing this weekend.
I like it. It's a slightly harder game, I think, than like Pokemon is really easy to intro people to because the logic of it is very straightforward, and that means sometimes it can almost be criticized for lacking some level of depth, which isn't necessarily the case, but on a surface level, maybe. And then Magic, you have such a huge background, and the stacking that you can do in Magic blows my mind. And it's almost the other end of the spectrum. It's really hard and sort of impenetrable at times to get into. I find slightly from a female perspective as well, depends on the group you're in as to how welcoming they are. Whereas Star Wars, it's sort of beautifully in the middle. It's a big strategic game. You really do have to play strategically to do very well in it, but without being too difficult that you feel scared to start or too easy that you feel it's not going to go anywhere. So I just, it ticks all the right boxes for me. And it's Star Wars, so win.
Mhm.
Even better. You ever played against a red goblin deck in Magic? Awful. The worst.
No, I still don't think I've ever been taught how to play Magic properly.
Well, I mean, I would still play Magic the Gathering, especially now with all the. Sorry, we're going on tangents here, and it's not Star Wars related, but I would love if there was like the way they're doing all the Magic the Gathering. It's not expanded universe. What are they calling it now? It's like
Beyond,
the
is it?
Beyond. Yes,
Uh,
Magic Beyond.
the stuff is
So
that the stuff with Bloomburrow? Because I bought so
so
much Bloomburrow and then did nothing
Bloom
with it.
Bloomburrow's still part of the main Magic the Gathering sets, so it's one of the expansions. But the Beyond stuff is like they've got Avatar: The Last Airbender, Doctor Who, Fallout, like all the IP stuff.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, yeah, exactly, is a recent one. So there's a lot of that I've kind of seen recently that I'm like, do I want to start playing Magic again? Do I want Avatar: The Last Airbender Cabbage Man as a card? Of course I do.
Invest in Star Wars.
I know that's it. Maybe I could use a little bit to get the Avatar set, but I'll stick with Star Wars Unlimited. Just a little.
Has there been any since playing Unlimited? Has there been any cards you've chased to get specific cards?
Not especially. So I'm a bit of in a weird space really, because I love playing it, but it's there. I live in the middle of nowhere. There is no real way to play it frequently, so I'm just very excited when I get to. And I also don't have the unlimited funds in order to collect properly. So it is for me very much just like an exciting thing to enjoy what they are. And then if I can drag anyone into learning how to play, oh, I am great fun at parties, I can tell you. So not especially in terms of I want this one card and I will chase it, but I'm very much so with Legends of the Force, I was very much like, I would like all of the pets. Every single pet I can possibly get. And there is a really lovely guy who runs a podcast called Star Wars Universe. And he and I traded him some of my Pokemon cards for his kid. And he traded me some of his spares. So I've got a good collection out there. And then I just like the silly ones. So in the most recent set, there is a really sassy artwork for Chancellor Valorum. Honestly, he looks great. I'm like, if you had this level of sass when you were in the Senate, we would not have had half the problems that we have now. So I have chased that card because I'm like, that needs to be in my collection. But not for any real, like there are beautiful cards out there, but the likelihood of me pulling them is very little. If I get an Obi-Wan, I'm buzzing. That's about as far as I go.
Yes, I was showing Daddy my collection of cards the other day, and I'm not a big guy the sleeve cards because I'm sort of just like I just like looking at them and playing with them. But Danny knows my love for Bail Organa, and was very surprised that I didn't have my Bail sleeved.
Yeah. I thought you would have had your Bale sleeved and then in a hard sleeve as
Yeah,
well.
top load that, keep that safe.
Yeah. Why would you be buzzing for an Obi-Wan card? Is it fair to assume that he is a favorite?
He's very like I early on was like, I quite like Obi-Wan. Let's see how this goes though as I watch more. Because this is the other thing, is like I was really confident. I was adamant that I would be a huge fan of Bo-Katan. And then I've only read her story because I haven't got through the Clone Wars yet. I'm trying, I promise. There's just a lot of it. And I sort of read the overviews and was like, I don't really like the sound of this character at all. I'm really surprised. So I'm always hesitant to say a favorite until I've seen all of the media that they're in. But for right now, every step I take, Obi-Wan, with his little bit of sass, a couple of quips here and there, I'm like, yes, I like you. Good start. So he's my go-to at the moment. He feels like safe ground. Let's just hope it continues as I watch through the Clone Wars.
I would say it will. Obi-Wan would be my favorite. Like, I'd be very into Jedis and clones would be sort of like my general like Star Wars demographic. Or am I their demographic? I don't know, but they appeal to me to the most. You know, I really like that for an army created out of replicated DNA. You get all these different personalities and the different armor styles and the paint jobs and the narratives that you get through the Clone Wars with the different ARC troopers and the different commanders and that sort of thing. And just even my fascination from episode 3 from Revenge of the Sith, you know, before we got the Clone Wars and we got to know those characters and personalities, just those differences. Like one of my favorite clones is Commander Pakara, CC-1138, because he just, like, the moment I saw him in Revenge of the Sith, I was like, well, why's he got his helmet's a bit Vader-esque, he's got face plates, he's killing Kiari-Mundi, like, who is this guy and why does he get, like, purple snowtroopers? So I love those, but the Jedi, in terms of the Jedis and their philosophy and how they teach you how to treat others and that sort of thing, especially Obi-Wan and the trials he goes through, and yet he still stays grounded with who he is. That speaks a lot to me, and I love his story through everything from the prequels, the original trilogy, and then everything, the Clone Wars, his wee moment in Rebels and everything just is fucking wonderful. And even the book before the Kenobi series came out, the Kenobi book is one of my favorite Star Wars books ever.
This is something that I've really enjoyed, particularly about Star Wars, and I think has been like a light bulb moment for me, is that there is a section of Star Wars for everyone, which I think is partially, I'm going to blame my husband, but he's very into like the Imperial side of things. He thinks all like that side of it is fascinating and can tell you literally everything about it. But to me, I don't have a lot of interest in that. So I can be excited that he's excited, but that's where I then draw the line. Whereas having now gone back and like I'm watching through, I've managed to get through the prequels and the originals. We're on to the sequels, but I've gone back and I've started reading the High Republic books, and they are like core Jedi, pure for. I'm loving it. I think it's incredible, and I find it so funny that actually, if maybe I'd have been a Star Wars fan sooner if I'd realized that I didn't have to like the same part of it, like that I could focus on one aspect and just enjoy learning about lightsabers and the Force and that side of things rather than fixating on Emperor Palpatine being a bit, ugh.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those, like, Star Wars can be overwhelming, but it does have a nice through line in that you can pick a character and sort of see basically from their birth to their death and what they go through and the people they meet along the way. And if you just stick with one character, say you wanted to stick with Luke, like you can literally see him as a kid in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, then into the movies, then into the sequels. But then you also have, if you wanted to, the extended universe that isn't canon anymore, but there's still those really interesting stories. So whenever you were getting into Star Wars, did you sort of pinpoint anybody in particular? You said, oh, obviously Obi-Wan Kenobi, but is there anybody not in the main roster that sort of caught your eye to be like, I could follow that person the whole way through?
So definitely Ahsoka.
Mhm.
I at the moment, and this is the downside with there being so many series and so little time and the Clone Wars existing, is that I'm fascinated by Ahsoka. And she was one I read the Ahsoka book quite early on, which is it's a young adult book. It's a super easy read, but it didn't demand anything of me. I didn't need to know any Star Wars to be able to read and enjoy it. And I loved it. I thought it was incredible. I've been in a reading slump for a very long time. And that was the first time I'd read a book and been like, guys, have you read this book? This book is great. So that's my little niggle into her. And I'd seen, because my husband had been excited about it, her I Am No Jedi scene. Incredible. Not a fan, know nothing, knew very little context. And even I was like, this is a really cool, like cinematic moment. So I'm dying to find out what her journey is, like where she becomes, like what happens to get her to that stage. And then obviously she's got a series as well, so then I need to delve into that. And I think I will love it, but I've also been warned that I probably won't like her for a couple of seasons and then that I will like her afterwards. That seems to be the common thread through. But yeah, she's the one I still know very little about because I want to almost experience it rather than read about it, which I've sort of done, but still.
Yeah, she's definitely when people say that the first couple of seasons of Ahsoka, she is annoying, it's because she's a kid, and it's like Darth Vader. You can go back to him being Anakin in episode one. He's an annoying kid, and then he
Yeah.
becomes the most badass evil Sith in the books and the comic books and stuff. I will recommend though the lady that wrote the Ahsoka book is a E.K. Johnson.
Yes.
She wrote a trilogy of books about Padme.
My reading list, I'm really keen to. I got distracted by High Republic, but once High Republic is sorted, back on this one.
Also fantastic, really good paired with the Padme episodes of the Clone Wars. Because obviously in movies she isn't really given much to do apart from falling over, but she is expanded upon in those books and in the Clone Wars that, like you say, a character that isn't she's a big character but isn't really given much to do. The everything around it, people don't really understand everything around it, and it is why like people like Bail Organa that I will go to bat for to be like, he's a really cool character, even though he's only in two scenes in episode three, and he's in episode two as well. But like, he is also Jimmy Smits plays him, and I have a crush on Jimmy Smits.
I was going to wait for you to be like, when are you going to say you want to give him a kiss?
I just want to kiss Jimmy Smits all the time. I will change my name. I will be Adam Smits if he
If he'll have you.
if he'll have the whole goodness. Sort of learning all of this stuff. How is the audience sort of reacting to you on because the Star Wars audience normally really chilled guys. How are they in the comments? Are people like having fun along with you for the journey?
Mostly. And I've been so pleased because I was here, and you can tell in my early videos, I'm very much like, I'm learning, please be nice to me. And I've sort of grown with confidence and like got slightly thicker skin since, so it doesn't matter too much. But overwhelmingly, incredibly positive. People, it's like I'd hoped. People like talking about Star Wars. People like sharing stuff. So if I get excited about something and someone then goes, did you also know that in this novel this happens? I'm like, what? This is amazing. And then I'll do something on that and we'll feed through. And I've made genuine friends from the point of starting this to now. That like I went to a festival on the Festival of the Force in Newark, which is just like a little con on Saturday, and met up with people that I had only interacted with online by happenstance. Didn't time anything, didn't whatever. It was literally just like, oh my goodness. So those sorts of things, wonderful. They asked me if I would make a Discord, which I was very hesitant over. So I was a bit like, A, lot of work. B, it's a lot to maintain, and I can't TikTok is my space, right? I know what I put out, and if I don't like the comments, I can delete them. Not being able to do that was quite intimidating. But do you know what? It's been lovely. It's been a really gorgeous little community. So those aspects are beautiful. I do, however, obviously see the side of TikTok that is less nice. There was one of my ones particularly recently. I haven't had to delete anything in a long time. I only usually delete if it's a personal comment, so if something about me and my appearance, or it's an inappropriate comment about me that makes me feel uncomfortable. And I go, right, that doesn't need to be here. You don't need to be here. We're out. Otherwise, I keep everything in. But I did a recent one because I'd watched A New Hope for the first time. And I've never, it's been on in the background, but I've never sat down and watched it. And obviously, you have Obi-Wan appears on screen, old Ben appears on screen, and he goes, hello there. And I was like, oh my God, I did not know that this was a callback, but a call forward, because I know the hello there from the meme of Ewan McGregor doing it, not from that. Anyway, so that blew my mind. I still to this day think that's fantastic, and fantastic to bother putting in, and whatever. I got a lot of comments and a lot of DMs about, well, obviously, or is this engagement bait? Why? Then sort of like, well, duh, why didn't you know that before? And I had to be like, because I'm learning. I don't know what you want from me here. I am learning. You get the mixture, you get the odd inappropriate comment, you get the odd rude things, but then that's the internet. The ones that upset me are they're like, is this just engagement bait? I'm like, no. No, I'm trying here.
But also, if it is,
Well, you've engaged, so
Gotta get them
Exactly.
clicks. Yeah, exactly. I think Adam and I are fairly fortunate because we're two dudes. So like it automatically it's kind of like, they get a Bible because no women in Star Wars. But you still find like every so often like on our Instagram, because we'll post like behind the scenes footage or archive footage or whatever, there's still just like random like little spiteful comments about stuff, even about like Carrie Fisher or whoever, and you're just like, why are you here?
Mm.
What are you
yeah,
knocking for? Like, no one's asked you to voice that opinion. We're not trying to get you mad here,
yeah,
But that's it. Like
it's
as you
fun.
say, it's the internet. People are gonna voice their opinion whether it's warranted or not.
Yeah, and I started when I first started doing it. I was posting. I posted on TikTok, and then I was like, this is silly. I should also be posting on the other places everyone posts. So I'll cross post to Instagram and YouTube, and I'll just keep TikTok as my safe little ground because I love it, and then shoot out everything. Within 2 videos, I had a stream of nasty comments, and I was like, do you know what? I'm going to go back to TikTok,
Mm.
but people are nicer to me. And I think there's a level of how the algorithm works. I can't prove this in the slightest, but I think the algorithm is putting me in front of more like-minded people because it's a very successful algorithm. And so I mostly benefit. But I had a video that took off. I gained 2,000 subscribers in about a week. I was terrified to post after that because I was like, what if they're not my nice community anymore? What if they're a bunch of meanies? How am I supposed to deal with that? And I had to put my big girl pants on and be like, right, no, we carry on as normal. I lose followers, I lose followers. We just deal. But I find it funny what people will dig their heels in the sand over. There was one, I did a video because I haven't been able to find like a little cozy Star Wars game. So in the evening, I like to sit down and try not to doom scroll, but by not doom scroll, I'll sit on a little mobile game or something. And I was like, there's like a little like Star Wars one. Like if I just want to do like a little Dreamlight Valley, but for Star Wars, doesn't exist. The comments overwhelmingly, and the DMs that I got overwhelmingly on that video, more so than the comments, where you realize it's called Star Wars. It's about wars. And I was like, okay, I'm new to this. And if you think all Star Wars is wars, you've misunderstood quite a lot of it.
Mm.
It's a little bit more than that. And those sorts of comments I almost enjoy because those I know I'm right in. Those I'm like, I can brush off because they're just people picking a fight.
There is, I don't know if it is still available, but there used to be the like little mobile Star Wars game where you essentially ran floors of the Death Star, and you could like make the different little like a little canteen and like a little bedroom and a
This
little
is
office,
precisely what I
and
want.
you would get credits to buy like different characters that would like come and visit your like little Death Star. I don't know if it's still available. It could be one of those games that like disappear into the ether like Star Wars Hunters and stuff like that. But I remember just as you were saying that, I was like, oh, there's that little cozy Death Star game.
Oh, I will look into that because I have, if it exists, I've not found it. And if it did exist, maybe I can still get a download of it somewhere.
It was all like all the wee characters were done in like little pixels, like little old school pixel art little characters.
Cute. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's exactly what I'm after. I think Disney slash Star Wars in general have begun to understood that their audience isn't just a really specific subset of people. And so there's now like clothing for women. Oh my God. And these sorts of things. And I think like the plushies and stuff, the creatures that you can get in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge and all these things, I'm like, we're leaning this way. But I don't know. I'd need to get like a petition to EA, I guess, and then it will all be loot boxes. But still, somebody can make a big old cozy game. I'm here for it.
An Ewok Village game where you are
Mm.
a little Ewok and you manage a little Ewok shop or you're a little Ewok chef and you're just going around the little Ewok tree village living your best life.
Okay, the only downside I have to the Ewok chef thing is that I got told off on TikTok because
Mm.
Ewoks eat stormtroopers. So I was not allowed to say that they were cute. So I feel like we might be opening a can of worms if we're allowing them to run a food outlet. But other than
Hey,
that, I'm game.
Cult of Lamb was a very cutesy game, but also violent. I feel like we could do something like that with Ewoks.
We'll figure it out. That's what it's rage bait for the internet. They'll love it anyway.
Yeah, get 'em.
What about Animal Crossing, but it's Act 2, and you're like the wee frog people, and then you have the wee
Oh,
porgs.
Yeah,
They,
yeah.
but then you also have to eat the porgs. Mm.
just let me be a porg keeper. That's all I need in
Mm.
life. Is just
You
let me
live
run
in one
like
of those little
a little porg sanctuary.
the little honeycomb
Like, okay,
huts.
no, yes. I'm on like what's the 2 Point Hospital? No, the like roller coaster tycoon, but the hospital one.
Yeah.
But
Mm.
now it's a porg sanctuary.
Mm.
You got to look after little sick ones and little baby ones, and
See,
yeah,
we've solved this in 3 minutes. There has been
yeah.
an entire licensing of Star Wars games, and no one has produced any of this. 3 minutes it's taken us.
It is weird that there was never any like over the 50 years of Star Wars, they've never been like just a game where you walk about. It's always some sort of adventure. What about a droid cleaning game?
Jet
I
washing
don't
droids.
want
Yeah.
cleaning in my leisure time. Thank you.
Okay, but here, did you
No, to be
not
fair,
just?
there's a droid building workshop game on old PC.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
because occasionally we play it with my kid or we put it on screen and my kid thinks it's absolutely hilarious because you bin certain bits that you don't want. And that to a 2-year-old is the funniest thing in the entire world. But yeah, I've yet to find. I know someone said to me that Sims have got a Star Wars pack, but I'm like, it's kind of not. I want a Star Wars game, not a Star Wars smooshing.
Mm.
Have you played Outlaws yet and just walked around Tatooine? I spent a day just walking around Tatooine and just taking it all in. Like that kind of relaxed me just because I was like, look at this. I'm in Tatooine. I'm just strutting around. There's where Han shot Greedo. This is great.
I know I need to do the games. I tried a little bit with the Star Wars Lego games just because that was my husband being like, try this, this might work to convert you. And I would played it for a couple minutes or so.
No,
But they probably are really good. I just have really terrible attention span, which is why it's taken me so long to watch the films. But yeah, the thing is some of the games, having seen gameplay of them, I desperately want to play. But it's just hours. It's hours upon hours. I've got Clone Wars to watch. I've already lost hours of my life.
yeah, but hey, worthwhile hours,
I
please.
know. I mean, I'm gonna be busy. I'm not stuck for content in any way whatsoever. I'm gonna be busy for about the next 30 years, and then I might have just caught up, maybe.
Mm.
That's like whenever we were starting this podcast, we were both just like, we have so much to go over, so much to come, so many people to talk to, and even like people that we have either have had on the podcast or upcoming on the podcast, are like people that we would have never even considered talking to, even like yourself, whenever we started this podcast, I don't think we thought, hey, we'll be speaking to a TikToker who is learning about Star Wars, but it still makes for interesting and engaging content within the world of Star Wars.
Yeah. Well, we hope that I'm interesting and engaging. We
You are,
we
you
keep
are.
fingers crossed.
And if anything, you'll rage bait for us, so it's fine.
I'm trying to think of what the last thing I said online was that made people cross, just so I can leave it for you as like a trailer line, so that you can just make people really angry. But I can't
Mm.
think. I think it probably was the Obi-Wan hello there. I think I've been quite tame.
That's okay. It's just having a woman on the podcast is enough, you know. What you're saying with the games, there's characters that you've never met. There's, Cal Kestis and
Cal Kestis, he's my big one,
Mhm.
especially because there's like all of those sort of real Jedi focused stuff. So the first thing I had fascinating was from again a Disney girl perspective, in that the parts that you could build in Savvy's workshop were parts that were available in that game. So you could build your actual like I love connections like that. I'm like how you can make something so beautifully immersive at all times. And that was how I started being like, oh, this is quite interesting. And then TikTok, as TikTok does, feeds you, oh, you like it? You're interested in that, aren't you? Let me show you all of these little character arcs and all of these little moments and all of these things. And so I end up on a deep dive of some specific character that I never hear of. And unfortunately, it then doesn't reinforce, so I don't remember it. But that's why I want to play the games, because the games as a medium of storytelling is incredible because it's as close to you living it yourself as you can possibly do. It's your decisions, it's your experience, it's your character. So enjoying games as storytelling, love it. It's literally just the being able to sit down for if I didn't have the child, it might be slightly easier.
Mhm.
Or a job. Either or.
Yeah.
I get that. I get that. Can you not just give your child a second controller that's not plugged in, and then they just think you're playing a lot?
Don't
No?
even need to. He what's oh my goodness, what's the one that is you can play in space. You can play as like a TIE fighter or an X-Wing.
Battlefront.
Oh,
Battlefront. Yeah, the kid loves it.
Mhm.
Demands for different. He'll go around and he'll just be like, Mummy, can I now be a TIE fighter? Mummy, I want to be an X-Wing. I want to play as this. I want to be the Millennium Falcon. Okay. And all he does is he treats it like a little cozy game. Is just off he goes. And that's it.
chilling around.
Yeah,
Love
just
that.
having a grand old time. Usually going out of bounds, exploding, and then looking at me to be like, what happened? And I'm like, who knows, dude? Let's get you another one. Leave him to it.
I love that.
Is there a facet of Star Wars that sort of is on your docket after the movies, after the TV shows? You're obviously enjoying the High Republic. Have you delved into the High Republic comics as well?
No, so I really struggle with comics. I was talking to someone about this recently because they asked me why, and I had to really figure out why do I struggle with comics when nobody comics seem to be the thing that everyone does when they struggle with everything else.
Mhm.
We've boiled it down to the fact that because you know how people talk about how you see things in your head. Do you see things as like a movie? Do you see things with a narration? Blah blah blah. I see text.
Mhm.
When I picture things in inverted commas, I only see text. So I think that's, and I watch all my films with subtitles on so that I read what's happening. So I think comics feel so impenetrable to me because I
Mhm.
cannot follow what's happening properly. The order doesn't work for me. There's too much going on. I just get stressed out. So I adore the content that some people make, which is explaining stories in the comics because I get all of that. And I am slightly concerned that I think is it like wave 3 of High Republic is just comics? And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh no, what am I gonna do? But I'm early on. I've got time before I need to worry about that. Hopefully I'll be invested. But I'd say I'm sort of skipping a little bit because I need to watch the sequel trilogy and then I want to go back and watch Obi-Wan because I think I remember watching that as a not fan and loved it. So that should be a really cool experience as a fan. And Ahsoka, and then who knows? Because there'll be more out by then because we'll have Starfighter and we'll have everything else. And there'll be like 20 more books. There's the Legacy book coming out next year. Very excited this year now. Very excited about that. Wait for that one. How rude. So I feel very much almost like a excitable ping pong ball where I'm like, oh, and then once I've got time, I'm going to read this. And then once I've got time, I'm going to watch that. And then once I finish this, I'm going to do that. And then, oh no, there's new stuff. Now what do I do?
Just to sort of give you a little pin to put in the Book of Boba Fett TV show, there's a moped gang that are part of like Boba's sort of, I don't know,
Entourage.
entourage. People will tell you that they're the worst things about. I am here to tell you personally that they are the smartest thing that Star Wars has done in the last 35 years. Donnie is
Ooh.
shaking his head, but it,
Oh,
it
looks
is
like
a
you
No,
don't
you
need
know
me for the
what?
rage baiting. You guys can't even agree.
Yeah. No, you know what? No, Adam loves to bring up, and he does genuinely love them. I'm all right with them, and if you've listened to any of our previous episodes, you'll know why. We don't want to put too many notions in your head about it right now, Charlie, because you need to make up your own mind. But there's a lot of influences in there for, kids like us who grew up with like Power Rangers and that sort of thing, and that's where the appeal I think comes from for me
Yeah.
anyway, for the Moped Gang. But Adam loves them.
I've explained it on this podcast before. I love the aspect of a post-war punk gang. It's what would happen in real life. It's,
Yeah.
like you say, Charlie, you live in the middle of nowhere. Danny, we live in Northern Ireland, which is basically the middle of nowhere, where you go to like the town centre and you see the gang of goths hanging
Yeah.
about because everywhere else is just to the norm. These are the goths of the Star Wars universe. They just happen to be riding blue, green,
Mopeds.
and pink mopeds. It's fine.
I mean, this
Yeah.
sounds fantastic. Why
Thank you,
does
Charlie.
why does the internet hate them?
Because at one point in a battle, one of the guys does an unnecessary spin, like a 360 spin for no reason.
Nah, the spin's great. It's the chase that people give
Oh
off
yeah, yeah.
about.
There's a
But you'll
cheat.
get there, Charlie. You'll get
Okay.
there.
Mm,
At
there,
that point, I'll message you guys and be like, now I have an opinion.
mm.
Get it. I get it, and I hate it.
What I've learned is to have a thick skin about my opinions on Star Wars and the stuff that I like and that I don't. So I'd posted, so Force Awakens was probably the first time I'd watched Star Wars and been like, oh, I could be interested in this. And that was when it came out. And I almost forgot that that was the case because then the later films came out, I didn't understand them, and I was like, nope, I'm back out again. This is the Star Wars I knew it was, blah blah blah. But like I was looking and like my keys have got I bought we moved house at the time that that film came out, so I'd got new keys cut. I've got BB-8 on it because in my mind I was like, maybe I could be a Star Wars fan. Turned out, no. Turned out we try again. So I'm almost nervous to start the sequels because, like, so for example, my husband quite likes more elements of the sequels than the rest of them, and we are fully aware that is a very controversial opinion. But I go in prepped to be like, you might like this because it's this kind of Star Wars, and this kind of Star Wars is different to this. I don't agree with a lot of the Rey criticism, so I automatically come into it from that point of view. And it's that thing of, I might absolutely love the motorcycle gang, but you almost have to learn when you're putting yourself online is to go, this is my opinion, and that's okay. But that you have to almost sometimes educate other people into reminding them it's okay to have a different opinion. You can like that. I'm not going to stop you, but I'm going to sit over here and like it in my little space over here.
The one piece of advice I would give for the sequel trilogy is that the stuff surrounding it, like the books and the comic books, sort of beef up what is missing from those stories. With The Force Awakens, it's a good sort of basically retelling of A New Hope in a way.
Yeah.
But if you read, me and Danny have both read the Bloodline book, which tells the story of Leia sort of being part of the New Republic and sort of getting shamed out of the New Republic. What you're missing from Leia's story in The Force Awakens immediately becomes more interesting. It's a cheap thing to say, well, if you read the DLC, then you get more stuff out of it. But like if you're a fan of the stuff, it's there for you. Do you know what I mean? If you disagree with that opinion and you just don't like the sequels because you don't like the sequels, go like you say, go away. Go away. But like if when you're getting to the sequels, I would recommend sort of delving into a bit more of that stuff because it becomes a lot more fun and a lot of the characters who sort of get cut short on what their adventures could be get a lot of stuff. There was the book recently that came out, The Last Order, about Finn being a stormtrooper.
I so want to read this book. I've got it on my
It's
wish list.
it's sort of advertised as a sequel to the Rise of Skywalker, but basically it's a prequel. It tells you all about Finn as a stormtrooper and sort of what he went through, and it makes that character infinitely more interesting. But then also, by the time you get to the movie and he says he works in the sanitary department, you're sort of like, it doesn't really mix. But in your head, what Finn is more important rather than just the guy that didn't become a Jedi.
I started to learn this early on, to be honest, because realistically, if you watch those as a regular consumer, which is what most people aren't going into like this level of Star Wars detail. They're just watching as a standard it's a big blockbuster. Let's go see if it's any good. Is like the fact that she's a clone or a descendant of clone, not explained, not mentioned whatsoever. It's just a big mystical. And there is an element, I think, of it's a shame that you have to go looking for so many answers. It would be great if at least the foundational answers were there and you got your extended reading elsewhere. But that is to say that I do find so much of the more interesting stuff outside of the films. The films feel like a structure, and then the offshoots are then what's interesting thereafter. So I always joke whenever I say I don't know about something, or I don't understand why someone would do this, or I don't like something, it's in the Clone Wars. The answer is always in the Clone Wars, which is part of the reason I'm so desperate to read 3. But the same with the books. Like I found Kylo Ren a quite flat character, in all honesty, like watching the films. And this is from memory. This is from a non-Star Wars fan perspective, was I was just a bit like, oh, well, he's a bit typical, isn't he? This is exactly how you would expect him to be. There is no depth here whatsoever. And then I learned about his lightsaber because my husband has the lightsaber. I did a video and I was like, this is a cool lightsaber. And I actually read about it and why the lightsaber is how it is and like how it represents the conflicted nature within him. Suddenly so much more interesting. Now I'm like, oh, Kylo Ren, you might actually be an interesting one, rather than just, I think the problem was in my head, he was like a version of Severus Snape, and I could not get that out of my head. And now I watch it and I'm like, I don't have that association now. So fingers crossed he can be an actual character. But there is so much fascinating stuff, and I appreciate how on earth do you fit all of that into one film? And equally, someone replied to something I did on TikTok at one point and said the reason people love Star Wars and are so defensive over Star Wars is because it doesn't explain a lot. It leaves these gaps, and then you fill in those gaps. And when you fill in those gaps, it's personal. This is your story. And so you're immediately more defensive of your story than you would have been a story that told you what the answer was. So as much as I'm like, can you give me some answers, please? I'm also like, I really respect why you don't give me answers.
It's sort of why Boba Fett is like the perfect encapsulation of that. Like 4 or 5 lines, he's in a couple of minutes of the movie, and then for 30 years you had people saying he's the coolest guy in the whole universe. Danny has his hand up, yes, Danny?
Hold on.
Yes, man.
How dare you forget
Mm.
about our beloved holiday special
Well, of course.
prior to his appearance in Empire Strikes Back?
Of course. Well, he rode that animal like a bantha, and that continued on to his series. But it is what you're saying, Charlie. It is like people built that character up for so long that by the time he came back in The Mandalorian, people were like, "Oh yeah, he's back, and he's fat, and he's not a bounty hunter like we expected him." It's like, well, what you thought for 30 years wasn't going to be what it was because that's
Yeah.
just too obvious, and you would have been bored of it anyway.
And also, I think the more I'm learning about legends, I'm trying deliberately to stick to canon at the minute because there is enough to last me in canon, and then I will go back to legend. But some of the legend stories are bonkers, and sometimes people are going, "We need to bring back legends," or Disney never should have got rid of legends. And I'm like, yeah, but some of those stories were nuts. And I don't know necessarily the Boba Fett ones, but I do imagine to an extent there are storylines in there that no, we don't want to keep those, like, or conflicting ones that one story does this and one story does that. It's like there's a point where we have to go, yeah, you asked for him and we've given you him. This is how we see it. If you don't like it, that's fine. Again, you go over there. You not like it over there. I'm happy over here liking this. But I've watched I think maybe 2 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett when it very first came out, because a lot of them I did try and sit down with my husband and watch. So as there got to be too many, I think it was Bad Batch, because there seemed to be loads coming out at one point. With Bad Batch, I sort of was like, you can watch this without me now. There's too much for me to have to sit down and watch every evening. So I've seen bits and bobs of it, but certainly not enough to have my own opinion yet. But again, I'll come back to you later about that motorcycle gang. Let you know.
Please do.
Yeah, I think with Adam and I, and without a rim rambling, we both sort of say like we try to be a positive outlook Star Wars podcast, and like we will always acknowledge where there's stuff that we don't particularly enjoy or we don't think was done well about a piece of Star Wars content, but ultimately we're here to look at the positives within that too. Like we mentioned in previous episodes how my whole thing is they could stick a Star Wars sticker on shite and I'd love it. But like there's still stuff like I will acknowledge when I don't think something's great. Like my least favorite Star Wars film in the main saga is Attack of the Clones, but within that you've got Obi-Wan Kenobi's whole storyline and introducing Jango Fett. Love it. The stuff between Anakin and Padme. Not so much. No, I did. I rewatched Attack of the Clones again over Christmas. I watched my fiance had never seen the prequel trilogy before, so I was like, "Oh, it's Christmas time. Let's watch the prequels." And I got all excited. She was not as convinced by the prequels as I was, but I think again because she didn't grow up with it, she didn't have that nostalgia for it, whereas I do. So even rewatching it again, she was just kind of like, "All right, I'm gonna go on TikTok now," and I was just like, "Yay, I'm in my happy place." But like watching Attack of the Clones again, I was watching those scenes I didn't like in more detail to try and be like, well, why don't I like this?
Mm,
And what can I like from this? And I think those scenes with Anakin and Padme, they just, I don't think the actors, because we know that Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman can act. We've seen
yeah,
them in other stuff. I just don't think they were given necessarily the right direction. And in those scenes, the music is beautiful. Across the Stars is one of my favorite Star Wars tracks. You've got the costume design is fantastic. The way the scenes are lit is incredible. There is so much to love, and I think that's what Adam and I try to do is where we kind of take something and be like, this is maybe something we don't necessarily like, but here's the good in it too. So, for example, Book of Boba Fett, I don't necessarily like the way Book of Boba Fett is put together, and I think that the directing of it is very much because the idea of the Book of Boba Fett came from the fact that Rodriguez put it together from the concept for it came from him doing stop motion with his toys. And that's what the series kind of feels like. It feels like somebody who's allowed to play with his toys the way he wanted to play with his toys, but without consideration for the audience that was watching. And I think that there kind of makes it a bit kind of like it not quite what I want, but there's enough in there that I'm like I can still enjoy this as a tasty little Star Wars meal. There's still enough in there that I wanted to see. I don't hate it, you know.
yeah.
So, and I think that's with Star Wars, as you say, you can have your opinion, and that's okay. And you can have good and bad opinions all at the same time. It doesn't all have to be bad. It doesn't all have to be good.
Yeah, and I think that's like you say, Attack of the Clones is your least favorite. I mean, I'm still going through, so I refuse to pick a favorite at this stage. But I came out of that saying that if you took out most of Anakin from that and left the Detective Obi-Wan storyline, and maybe a couple of flashes of, oh great, they're getting married, good, there you go. Really good film. Like genuinely, really, really good. But it slows down so much in those, especially from a female perspective. We've known guys like that. And I was literally sat there like my skin was crawling. I was like, I don't like this. You're really creepy. Why are we saying this guy? Why are you marrying him? And all of this side of things that sort of takes you out of it. But behind that, a really solid film. There's a lot of like really funny quips, and I never knew Star Wars could be funny, and like these sorts of little bits inside it that make me go, yeah, okay, I get why we don't like these bits because I don't like those bits. I might not like them for a different reason, but I do like these bits. Obi-Wan, 10 out of 10. Good job, guys. You did good.
Yeah, I think with Attack of the Clones and Anakin, it's sort of like method acting turned up to 11 in the sense of like George probably talked to him. He was probably like, look, you were a child who was taken from his home. You were raised by this guy who was never really there for you. The only real woman you've ever had a conversation with was this princess like years ago, and you've probably been thinking about her every night, hubba hubba. But you get to the point where like you say, like we know people like that, and in a way, sort of not to say George Lucas is like that, but you could imagine George Lucas being a teenager,
And a
being
little
like
bit awkward. Yeah.
that awkward guy. So that's what he wrote, and then that's what Hayden Christensen then played, and it
Because
doesn't come across well on screen.
yeah, and like you say, it's all about direction to an extent because both of them have proven that they can act and absolutely have. Like even in the later Hayden Christensen in the later stuff is incredible. And you're like, dude, this is like this is obviously what people wanted. But I remember my husband said about it, but we can't find the interview where he heard or remembered it, but just seems to remember that there was some sort of direction as well that they needed to make the transformation between Anakin and Darth Vader seem feasible. So he couldn't be too emotive, really, because he needed to be some level of robotic. So it made sense when he later became Darth Vader. And if you watch it with that lens, and like you say, with the sort of the fact that you've never seen a woman before, right? The difficulty I then have is yes, but Padme, appreciate, has done a lot and is in a very strange life circumstance that no one can really understand, which is why she's susceptible to Anakin. But at the same time, she's met men. She can turn around and go, and she does. And that's another red flag for me, is that she says to him, like, you're creeping me out, stop, go away. And he doesn't, and the film rewards that, which frustrates me. But I can see how later they've tried to fix that. So like you say, then you need the expanded universe. Then you need the Clone Wars to make that make more sense. Or the stories of, I've seen comics of how Vader has really invested in trying to get Padme back. Although, side note, everything I ever see with the Vader comics are like, Vader goes to this place and he tries to commune with Padme by opening her tomb so that he can see her. And then he gets cross and then he smashes everything. And then Vader goes back to the Jedi Temple to watch these videos of what happened, and it proves to him that they're bad guys and they've done something. And then he gets cross and he smashes everything. And it's like, dude, there is more information available. Hold your horses for 10 seconds and you can get more out of this. Every time I'm like, dude, just chill. Have you not learned? Have you not learned? Chill your beans.
But you know this guy, he's on the spectrum. It is funny with the comics. It's like with the latest comics, The Legacy of Vader with Kylo Ren, there's a really cool moment where he goes to Naboo and it's sort of like, this is where my grandmother was born, and I sort of wanted to be, it fell into disarray after everything that happened, and he orders the First Order to attack Naboo, not telling the First Order and General Hux that Kylo Ren is going to don an outfit and become a vigilante who is on the side of the Naboo army and fights back the First Order so that the people of Naboo will be inspired to not be as weak anymore, because he wants to see Naboo be the strong city again.
What? There is so much of Star Wars that could be resolved by therapy.
Well, this is the thing.
He's like his granddad. He's got red flags.
Yeah. Come from a broken home,
Goodness. Ah.
Yeah, yeah.
Meme of I'm just a baby. That's just every Star Wars character. It's like I've been through
Why did you
trauma,
do
but
that?
don't forget,
Just a baby.
it's just a
I can
baby.
pay you with blocks. I have a very important content question to ask, and is that have you watched the 2003 Star Wars Clone Wars micro series by Andy Kahrs?
I have only seen the General Grievous section of it.
One of the best.
Because I think we must have watched Grievous on screen, and I was like, I think I made a comment that he wasn't quite what I expected. And my husband was like, hold the phone. I need to show you this. You need to sit down and watch this. And just brought up the whole scene with all the different Jedi and him sort of picking them off one by one. Incredible. So that I have seen. No, I haven't seen the rest of it. I think I've seen snippets of Asajj Ventress within it, because isn't there something that Anakin's scar is only canon, isn't technically canon, but the story behind it was in the original?
Was in the 2003 Clone Wars, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which is very
yeah.
cool.
It
My
is
other half was
very
saying
cool.
that he had done an interview. What was his name? Sorry,
Andy Kahrs.
that one. He'd done an interview or explained something, or someone had done a biography or something and said that he could have been Dave Filoni. He could have had that progression, but he was doing other projects at the time. So Dave Filoni went into it, and that's why the Clone Wars became what it is. And we had a right interesting little thought process of what Star Wars would have been in the interim between films if he had been head of it, because his was a lot more gritty and more violent, which I think actually Disney has lent more into now than ever was before. It was all very family friendly. But I thought I definitely need to watch to understand more of. But I thought that was an interesting thing, that want for a more interesting, more brutal Star Wars was there early on.
Well, that's when kind of Cartoon Network had it, and you had somebody like Gindi come on who came from Samurai Jack and that sort of style of cartoon animation. Yeah, it's like one of my favorite pieces of Star Wars content in general, and inspired our podcast logo. But you were sort of saying about like Anakin being robotic, but there's a really interesting narrative for Anakin through that series, and his kind of the finale of that series for Anakin and what he kind of goes through as a Jedi trial is, again, some of the best Star Wars I think there is, you know. And you also got the first appearance of Commander Cody as well in that series, and Grievous, which, and you also get a Jedi who's an homage to Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, and that makes me very happy.
Okay, I'm in. I'm
One
watching.
of the Jedi that, so you've already seen him. If you've seen Grievous take on, there's a Jedi called Shakti, and you'll see when you're watching it, when you go to watch it now, you'll see him and you'll just be like, ah, yep, there he is. Now that I point this out to you, you'll know. You'll know.
If I hear zoinks, that one.
There's no zoinks, I'm afraid. I wish it was as
Oh,
on the
you set it
nose as
up.
that,
I
but
was so
it's
ready.
so sorry. I'm so sorry. But the look, you'll know from the look, you'll be like, that's him. That's the one.
Oh, I will rewatch.
He's got that classic scruffy beard, and his lightsaber's green. So you're like, ah. If you were to sort of recommend Star Wars to somebody just blank slate, right, like right now, where would you sort of recommend for them to start?
Oh, good question. Because I think I spent a good month before I actually did anything proper going, guys, where do I start? I think it depends on the person. So like I found that the light side was a lot more interesting to me than the dark side, which meant natively what I would be interested in changed. And actually I got more from the books early on. I found that easier to consume than anything else. But there's two recommendations that stood out to me that I got that I think are great. Someone said Lego Star Wars, play the Lego Star Wars games as your starter because you get story from that, but you also have the lightheartedness and it feels a lot more approachable that way. And somebody else that said start with the Clone Wars because you get all of the good bits of Star Wars in different forms. You get like the darker Star Wars, the lighter Star Wars, you get all of it in digestible chunks. So you can pick out your bits from there, which I thought was really interesting because everyone, the overwhelmingly, I was told, watch the original trilogy and nothing else. Nothing else it must be the original trilogy. I'd watched the original trilogies over the years. Like I never like sat down and watched and enjoyed, but I'd seen them and they hadn't got me then.
Hmm.
So if that doesn't work, then let's find maybe what does. And it doesn't, I think almost on the flip side to people that do know what they're talking about, it's like sometimes the advice is just because it's your favorite doesn't mean it's the right entry point. I think the entry point is a little bit harder to know and harder to find. And because there is so much Star Wars, has the benefit of being able to be unique to the person. I'm curious as to whether High Republic would have got me if I'd have picked up High Republic off the shelf because I'm loving it. I'm 2 books in and I am obsessed. Would that have got me, or did I need to know Star Wars before I got to it? It's interesting even now, and I now feel strong enough to consider myself a Star Wars fan. I feel confident to hold my own, but I'm still definitely not of anyone else's level. And even I'm then like, what would a new Star Wars fan think of this? And I'm like, no, you are a new Star Wars fan. Like, think about it. But yeah, I think currently my lean into that question would probably be either one of the books, like an easy read book. Ahsoka was really good for me, or something digestible in itself. Even Mandalorian, to be honest. I think Mandalorian brought a lot of people into it because it's got a lot of good bits, let's be honest. So tough. But it was a rubbish answer, wasn't it? It was like, here are 20 different things that are really good. It's not the films.
I think you're right, though. It definitely depends on the person. Because, like, if I was getting into Star Wars right now, like, if somebody recommended me a book, I'd be like, oh, reading. But video games, I think Jedi Fallen Order, if you're a video game fan, sort of opens you up to, like, post episode 3. And then it hits all of the beats of, like, even though Darth Vader is in it, you don't have to know who he is because he's just that cultural guy. So it sort of has the same impact of, oh no, here is Darth Vader. He's bad. Danny, what would you say if you were to start today?
If I would start today, one of my things is whenever I'm kind of talking to people about Star Wars and they're kind of like, "Ah, I enjoyed the movies or whatever, but I don't really know where to go from there." And I'm always like, give the animated stuff a go. And they're like, that's for kids though. I'm like, nah, but I'm like, you get the first two seasons of Clone Wars over you and you're into the meat of it. I'm like, it's real, like good, proper, well told, well put together storytelling, not even just in terms of Star Wars, but just in general storytelling. I love it, and I think more people should take the time, especially if they do consider themselves a Star Wars fan. Like, there's a lot of Star Wars fans I talk to who are just like, "Oh yeah, I've never watched the animated stuff," and I'm like, "Why not?
Mm.
Like, you like Star Wars, like get into that. But it's for kids. I'm like, I'm having none of it. You go watch that." But I think for me, I probably would say if I was kind of like a kid again and hadn't had an uncle who got me into Star Wars, I would probably the Lego Star Wars games would have probably got me because I do love them, and I love them from the very first one on the PS2 right up to the most recent Skywalker Saga release. Yeah, I think for me, I think if I was gonna show somebody one and we only had a bit of time, say I was allowed like two episodes of a show and that was it, I would show them Skeleton Crew.
Mm.
I think Skeleton Crew for me is my new like comfort Star Wars thing. And not even as necessarily even a piece of Star Wars content. It's my new like favorite sci-fi thing, comfort sci-fi thing. Because for a while, Star Wars is always going to be there, but for a long time, Guardians of the Galaxy was like a comfort sci-fi thing. Like I could watch the first Guardians film like 2 days in a row and not be fed up with it. Like I loved Guardians. I still love Guardians, but now I feel like Skeleton Crew has kind of taken its place. Like I watched it the whole way through on release. I watched it again there at Christmas time. It just it's just a real like nice cozy like love of Star Wars, love of like that kind of 80s coming of age cinema. Yeah, I don't think I could express how much I love Skeleton Crew. People who listen to the podcast regularly will be like, "Oh, there he goes again, talking about Skeleton Crew." But yeah, I think I would offer up Skeleton Crew as a first serving for somebody maybe getting into Star Wars.
Mm. And like poetry, it rhymes. Star Wars Unlimited.
The
Like say
card game.
Joe, the card
Yeah,
game.
It's a
yeah.
callback.
See, I to be fair, like I actually genuinely, I am buzzing to play it some more.
Yeah.
Like since playing it the weekend there, I'm buzzing to get my Twilight of the Republic stuff and be like, Adam, when we meeting?
Just out of curiosity, I know obviously you have a young child, Charlie, but Star Wars Celebration on the horizon.
Oh, I hope so.
Hmm.
I really hope so. I know I've got a little bit of time. Obviously, I'm definitely not going to the next one because flights are ridiculous. I can't remember who I was talking to. It was the droid makers at the event I went to, and they were saying the next one is likely or is being confirmed for Germany.
Oh.
And I was like, that's not doable. Do
Hmm.
you know what I mean? The hardest part is the child, so I might have to wait until he's old enough to come with.
Hmm.
But at the rate he's going for his own Star Wars fascination, because you mentioned as well about for younger people going into Star Wars, Young Jedi Adventures
Hmm.
is fantastic. And I will sit there and I will perfectly happily watch it with him because yes, all great things happen all the time and everybody's friends at the end. But there's a lot of like really cool little Star Wars bits in there and yeah, super interesting. But once the child is old enough or at least old enough for us to in the same country potentially leave with grandparents,
Hmm.
the goal will 100% be to get to something like that to I mean, I know my husband wanted to go to the one when it was in London, but couldn't get the tickets. And now there's two of us. And they're like, right, we will get tickets for this. So yeah, that would absolutely be the dream. Because I think even the con in Newark that I went to, the Festival of the Force, and I wasn't previously whenever I've done conventions, I've always had to do it from like almost like a journalist point of view. So I have to go and I have to go and check what's there and I have to take pictures of what's there and I have to interview and I have to be very like on all the time. And this was the first one I just chilled and enjoyed and just did for the sake of. Occasionally you'd chat to a vendor because you were looking at something and they tell you about it. And that little interaction was amazing. So the idea of Star Wars Celebration being a lot of Star Wars fans in one place, just being really enthusiastic about Star Wars before you even get to like the mega releases and the mega announcements and the people and everything else. Yes, yes, sign me up, please.
And like we always say to our guests, if people that live abroad, we always say, come on over to Northern Ireland, we'll treat you to a pint Come on over to Northern Ireland, but bring your unlimited cards with you and we'll all play at the bar.
Yeah.
Just a suitcase full.
Yeah.
And your playmats, of course,
Yeah,
as
of
well,
course.
because we'll have that. But
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, they need to get out of the house. They
Have you got the Porg? Have you got the Porg one yet?
No, I don't, and I'm really sad about it because it was a UK Games Expo exclusive, and I was working it. So because I was working it, it wouldn't have been mine because I was on work time. So I'd have had to have given it up. So I was like, I don't want to do it because then I'd have to give it up. Whereas I'm like, now I'm really into it for me. I'm like, how do I go back and get that one?
Yeah. Do you not have like friends that you could be like ones maybe working on the scene, being like, "Oh, get."
I'm being more strategic about it this year. This year I'm like, right, guys, split up and search for clues. I want you to collect any a free pin, take it. Take it. I'm there. I'm all for it. But no, I mean Star Wars Unlimited are a fantastic lot anyway. The people that run it in the UK are incredible people, like really, really good. So I'm looking forward to being able to like enjoy it with them rather than having to enjoy it with them from a professional POV.
Yeah.
Now I can just be like, guys, you've got porgs, or insert whatever creature is on there. I don't know which set it will be by UK Games Expo, but whatever that becomes. But guys, you've got pod racers. And I can be an idiot about it rather than and tell me more about the pod racers.
Just wait till they get the moped gang on a playmat. Boom.
Fantasy Flight are always listening. I feel like there's got to be a way.
Mm.
I mean, I'll feed it in. So my feedback at the moment is that I want a pet deck. We want pet deck. Now we also want motorcycle gang mat.
Yes. Please put in a good word for us.
I'll start my list. We'll
It's
People be like, who is this girl demanding things? And I'm like, well,
the people have spoken.
the people have spoken.
Thank you very much for joining us, Charlie. Thank you for giving us your time. Also, where can people find out your wares? Where can they leave you delightful comments telling us that they've listened to the pod?
Best place is TikTok. I am technically across a lot of them, but TikTok is the home ground, and that is just at the Charlie side. Or if you search Charlie as learning Star Wars, or probably just learning Star Wars at this point, I will hopefully appear and not be rage baity by accident. Be very engaging and informative, I'm sure.
Of course, as always. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Join us next week for more fun and shenanigan in the stars, and we'll see you next time. And as always, we have friends everywhere. Goodbye.
Bye.
We found a map to Candy Mountain. Candy Mountain, Charlie. Yeah, Charlie. We're going to Candy Mountain. Come with us, Charlie. Yeah, Charlie. It'll be an adventure. We're going on an adventure, Charlie.